The squad moved through the ruined valley with the uneasy silence of men who had survived too much to trust quiet places. Their orders were simple: reach outpost E-77, re-establish communications, and report back. But everyone knew the truth. E-77 had gone dark 3 months earlier during a heavy enemy advance. No survivors, no signals, no hope. That was until yesterday, when a single transmission surged through the comms network. "Help me. Please, help." The voice was warped, fragmented, repeating in a loop that sounded as if it had traveled through a grave to reach them. When the squad arrived, the outpost stood untouched, frozen as it had been the day it fell. Meals half-eaten, beds unmade, equipment scattered as if dropped mid-use. But there were no bodies, not even bloodstains. It was as if the entire garrison had been lifted from the earth and erased. Morales, the squad's radio operator, replayed the transmission while the others searched. The distorted plea echoed through the metal halls, growing stranger each time it looped. The voice sounded familiar to Captain Hale, but he couldn't place why. As dusk bled across the sky, they set up temporary camp inside the perimeter. That was when the footsteps began, slow, dragging, inconsistent. Hale ordered lights out, weapons ready. The squad waited in tense, darkness as the sound of boots scraped against dirt above the trench line. Then another set, then another. But when they popped a flare, the ground around them showed nothing but drifting dust and abandoned helmets. Later that night, Morales swore he saw silhouettes moving along the ridgeline. Hale didn't believe him until he heard whispering over the radio, not from their channel, but from Outpost E-77's original frequency. The whispering formed broken words, overlapping each other as if dozens of voices were speaking through the same mouth. "Do not leave. We are still here." One by one, the squad members felt the temperature drop, their breath becoming visible as the footsteps returned, closer this time, circling the outpost like wolves studying their prey. Hale tried contacting command, but all he heard was static, and behind it, faint breathing. By sunrise, the squad had slept little and discovered something new. Fresh footprints in the dirt. Military boots. From their own unit. And every print led deeper into the abandoned trench system, disappearing into darkness. Hale realized then that whatever haunted E-77 hadn't vanished, it had been waiting, and now it wanted them to follow. The fog that clung to no man's land that morning was unnaturally thick, a gray wall that swallowed sound and dissolved the horizon. The squad moved slowly, checking every angle as they crossed the scarred terrain of craters, barbed wire, and burned-out vehicles. Hale couldn't shake the feeling that the land was watching them. It felt wrong, heavier somehow, as if the soil remembered too much. They were halfway across when the first figure appeared, a soldier in a tattered uniform unlike any Hale had ever seen. The man staggered through the mist, head hanging low, arms limp. Morales whispered a greeting, but the figure didn't respond. Instead, he paused, lifting his face just enough for them to glimpse pale eyes devoid of recognition. He opened his mouth as if to speak, but only a dry rasp escaped. Then he faded back into the fog like a ghost. More figures emerged, 5, 10, 15, wandering without purpose. They moved with unnatural stiffness as though strings tugged their limbs. When Hale ordered his men to retreat, the ground beneath their boots seemed different, as if the terrain itself had shifted overnight. Landmarks they had passed minutes earlier were suddenly gone. Trenches appeared where none had been. Even the direction of the wind felt confused. Then the distant artillery fire began, a barrage from a long-dead front. The sound rolled across the battlefield, but no actual shells landed. It was like the echo of a war still fighting itself in some unseen layer of reality. The wandering soldiers reacted to the phantom explosions, dropping to their knees and covering their heads. Hale realized with cold dread they were reliving a battle that had already killed them. The squad quickened their pace, trying to outrun the illusions, but the fog only grew thicker, and the ghostly soldiers became more erratic. One lurched forward, grabbing Peart Ellis by the arm with surprising strength. The touch burned with unnatural cold, and Ellis screamed as frost spread across his sleeve. Hale fired a warning shot, but the figure didn't flinch. Instead, it turned its empty eyes toward Hale, and a dozen more joined it, emerging from the haze like summoned spirits. Desperate, Morales tracked the radio signals. The compass spun wildly, unable to find north. "The land's changing," Morales murmured. "It doesn't want us leaving." As they broke into a run, Hale saw something horrifying. Trenches rearranging themselves like shifting ribs, closing off their escape, and behind them the ghostly battalion followed, no longer wandering but marching with purpose. Hale realized the dead weren't trapped. They were trying to pull the living into their eternal battle. No Man's Land was no longer just a battlefield. It was a prison, and it had chosen new occupants. Private Ellis's condition worsened overnight. The black ash he coughed up-coated his lips and settled into the creases of his palms. His eyes darted around the bunker as though he saw things crawling along the walls, things no one else could see. When he spoke, his voice carried a second whisper beneath it, like someone else was speaking through him. Hale kept the squad calm, but fear gnawed at them. Ellis wasn't just sick, he was changing. Between bouts of coughing, Ellis described visions, soldiers burning, screaming, reaching out from pits of ash. He claimed he saw battles from decades ago, conflicts the squad had only read about in military history reports. He described details too precise, too vivid to be imagined. "They're calling to me," Ellis rasped. "They remember what we forgot." As the squad searched for answers, Morales uncovered an old map tucked behind a rusted generator. It highlighted a sealed-off section of the bunker system, marked with outdated military insignia and warnings scratched violently across the surface. Hale led the squad deeper underground, following signs of collapsed passages and scorch marks. The air grew heavy, hot, and metallic. The deeper they went, the more Ellis reacted, hearing voices, twitching, trembling. Eventually, they found the sealed door, welded shut with layers of steel plates. Something had been locked inside, not kept out. Hale ordered it open despite the dread twisting in his gut. The metal screeched loudly as they pried it apart, revealing a chamber lined with urns and containers filled with fine, dark ash. But the room felt alive. The air vibrated and the ash shifted as though breathing. Morales unearthed old documents explaining the truth. A failed experimental weapon meant to harness the fury of fallen soldiers, using their remains as fuel. Instead, the experiment had created something else, a collective consciousness of pain, grief, and rage. When the outpost fell years ago, the entity awakened, consuming the garrison and wandering the battlefield, in search of more memories to devour. As Ellis collapsed, the ash drifted toward him, lifting from the containers in swirling tendrils. The whispers grew louder, filling the chamber with overlapping screams. Hale tried pulling Ellis away, but the ash tightened around him with desperate hunger. Ellis's final words were distorted, as if echoed by 1,000 unseen mouths. "It remembers you, too." The squad faced an impossible choice: destroy the chamber and risk unleashing the ash across the entire front, or reseal it and abandon their friend to join the growing legion trapped within. And as the ash surged forward, Hale realized the war they were fighting was not just for survival, but against the memories of every soul the battlefield had ever claimed.